I told
I'm
my
glad we
boss
could
I had a
connect on
date that
this.
night.
Me too. This is a great start.
I expected a
Absolutely. Let's
simple
keep the momentum
reaction.
going. The latest
Maybe a
metrics are looking
polite
very
smile.
positive.
Great. Any
Maybe a
adjustments needed?
quick, have
Just a few
fun.
tweaks. I'll send them over. This
Instead,
is a nice change of pace.
she looked up
Yeah,
from her
it's a nice break.
laptop,
We should do this more
studied my
often.
face for a
Definitely.
moment, and asked something that completely caught me off guard. Is she prettier than I am? I froze. Because my boss was the last person on earth I expected to ask me something like that. My name is Daniel. And for the last 2 years, I had been working at a marketing company in downtown Chicago. It was a good job. But there was one reason everyone in the office felt nervous every day. Our boss, Victoria Hayes. She was famous in the company for 3 things: her intelligence, her confidence, and her extremely strict personality. Victoria was the kind of boss who noticed everything. If you arrived 1 minute late, she noticed. If a report had one mistake, she noticed. If someone tried to slack off, she noticed. No one ever joked around her. No one ever spoke casually with her, including me. Which is why what happened that afternoon felt so strange. It was almost 5 p.m. Most people were packing up to leave. I walked into Victoria's office to hand in the final report for a project we had been working on. She looked at the file carefully, then nodded. Good work, Daniel. That alone surprised me. Victoria almost never gave compliments. I turned to leave. But then she said, "Are you in a hurry today?" I hesitated. Actually, yes. She raised an eyebrow. Why? I scratched the back of my neck. I have a date tonight. The moment the words left my mouth, the room went silent. Victoria slowly leaned back in her chair. Then she looked straight into my eyes and asked, "Is she prettier than I am?" My brain completely shut down. Did my boss really just ask that? I tried to laugh it off. I think that's a dangerous question to answer. She smirked. So you're avoiding it? I'm trying to keep my job. For a second, she actually laughed. And that shocked me even more. Because I had never seen Victoria Hayes laugh before. For the rest of the day I couldn't stop thinking about that moment. Why would she ask that? Victoria was confident, successful, beautiful. She didn't need validation from anyone. Especially not an employee. At 7 p.m. I arrived at the restaurant for my date. Her name was Melissa. She was nice, funny, easy to talk to. But strangely, my mind kept drifting back to my boss. That question. That smile. That laugh. When the dinner ended, I walked Melissa to her car. It had been a good evening. But I knew there wouldn't be a second date. Something just felt missing. The next morning I arrived at work early. When I walked past Victoria's office, she called my name. Daniel. I stepped inside. She looked at me calmly. So, how was your date? I shrugged. It was okay. Just okay? Yeah. She leaned forward slightly. So, was she prettier than me? I sighed. You're really not letting that go, are you? She smiled. No. I thought for a moment. Then I said honestly. She was pretty. Victoria's smile disappeared. But, I continued. She wasn't you. For a moment the room went completely silent. Victoria looked surprised. Then she laughed softly. You know, I almost asked you out last night. My heart skipped. What? She nodded. But then you mentioned the date. I stared at her. Wait, you're serious? Victoria stood up and walked toward the window. Daniel, do you know why I hired you 2 years ago? I shook my head. No. She turned around. Because during the interview, you were the only person who didn't try to impress me. You just spoke honestly. She smiled slightly. And I liked that. Then she walked back to her desk, picked up her phone, and said something I never expected. So. She looked at me. Are you free tonight? I blinked. Are you asking me on a date? Victoria crossed her arms confidently. Yes. Then she added with a playful smile. And this time, you can answer the question honestly. I laughed. And for the first time since I started working there, my boss didn't feel like my boss anymore. She felt like someone I wanted to know. Someone I wanted to spend time with. And suddenly, that simple question from yesterday made perfect sense. Is she prettier than I am? Because the truth was, I had been looking at the wrong woman the whole time that I didn't answer immediately. Because my brain was still trying to process what just happened. My boss, Victoria Hayes, had just asked me out. The same woman who terrified half the office. The same woman who barely smiled. Was now standing in front of me, waiting for my answer. So, she asked, raising an eyebrow. Are you free tonight? I cleared my throat. I think I can rearrange my schedule. She smiled. Good. Then she added calmly. Pick me up at 7. The entire day felt strange after that. Every time I walked past Victoria's office, I remembered what had happened. And suddenly, the office rumors started making sense. Some people said she never dated anyone. Others said she was too focused on work. But now I wondered if the real reason was something else. Maybe she just hadn't met the right person. At 6:55 p.m. I stood outside her apartment building. It was a luxury building downtown. Of course it was. Victoria Hayes didn't do anything ordinary. I checked my phone. Then suddenly the building doors opened. And Victoria stepped outside. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She wasn't wearing her usual office suit. Instead she wore a simple black dress. Her hair was down. And without the office atmosphere around her, she looked completely different. Softer. Warmer. More human. She noticed me staring. Try not to look so shocked, she said. I do know how to dress outside the office. I laughed nervously. Yeah. I'm starting to realize that. We went to a small Italian restaurant. Nothing fancy. But surprisingly, Victoria seemed to like it. This place is nice, she said. You expected something more expensive? I asked. She shrugged. I spend all day around people trying to impress me. Then she looked at me. You're the only one who doesn't. That comment made me smile. Dinner felt easy. Which was strange. Because during work hours, talking to Victoria always felt intimidating. But tonight, She was different. She laughed. She told stories. She even admitted something surprising. Do you know how many times I almost asked you out before? I nearly choked on my drink. What? She nodded casually. 3 times. Why didn't you? She smiled slightly. Because dating your employee is risky. I laughed. Yeah, that makes sense. But then yesterday you mentioned another woman, she said. And suddenly, I didn't want to wait anymore. Her honesty caught me off guard. But it also felt refreshing. After dinner we walked outside. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement. For a moment we stood there quietly. Then Victoria asked softly. So, was tonight a mistake? I looked at her. The confident boss from the office. But now, there was a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. And that surprised me more than anything. No, I said. Not even close. She smiled. Good. Then she added with a playful look. So. Daniel. Yeah. Now you can finally answer my question honestly. I laughed. You really won't let that go, will you? She shook her head. No. I thought for a moment. Then I said. No, she wasn't prettier than you. Victoria smiled slowly. Good answer. Then she added. But next time, don't go on a date with someone else first. I laughed. Deal. And as we walked through the quiet city streets together, I realized something unexpected. The woman I had been afraid of for 2 years might just become the best thing that ever happened to me. A few months passed after that first date. Something strange happened in the office. People started noticing the change. Victoria Hayes, the strict, intimidating boss everyone feared, was smiling more. And somehow, every time she smiled, she was looking at me. Of course, we kept things professional at work. No one in the office officially knew we were dating. But rumors started spreading anyway. Because it's hard to hide something like that. Especially when the boss suddenly starts drinking coffee with the same employee every morning. One evening, after work, Victoria asked me to meet her at the same restaurant where we had our first date. When I arrived, she was already there. But something felt different. She looked nervous. Which was shocking. Victoria Hayes, nervous? That was something I had never seen before. Everything okay? I asked. She nodded. Yeah. I just wanted to talk. We ordered dinner. But she barely touched her food. Finally she took a deep breath and looked at me. Daniel, do you remember the first question I ever asked you? I laughed. How could I forget? Is she prettier than I am? Victoria smiled. Yes. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. My eyes widened. Victoria. She opened the box. Inside was a ring. But instead of giving it to me, she placed it on the table between us. Then she said something I never expected to hear. I built a successful career. I built a company. But I never built a life with someone. She looked straight into my eyes. Until you. My heart was racing. Then she smiled softly. So Daniel. This time I'll ask a better question. She slid the ring toward me. Will you marry me? For a moment I couldn't speak. 6 months ago. She was just my boss. The woman everyone feared. Now she was the woman asking me to spend my life with her. I laughed quietly. You know. You're still the only person who asks dangerous questions. Victoria raised an eyebrow. So is that a yes? I picked up the ring. Looked at her. And smiled. Yes. For the first time since I had known her. Victoria Hayes looked completely speechless. Then she laughed. And that moment was the moment I realized something. Sometimes the person who changes your life forever is the one you never expected. And sometimes all it takes is one unexpected question. Is she prettier than I am? Because that simple question was the beginning of everything.